at the corner. There we go.
All right. Hey, everyone. I am here with eXp Broker of Ohio, Louise Potter. Hey, Louise, how are you today?
I'm good, Jennifer. How are you?
Good. So today we were going to talk about net sheets and negotiation strategies and using it to help us with our sellers. So you were explaining to me how, well, just start at the beginning, like with the net sheet and how you do it.
Okay. And this is something I developed in a more normal market, mind you,
Right.
before the insanity of today. Right now, the
Right.
fact that we're living in auction mentality and everything that we do. Negotiation starts from the very beginning.
Mhm.
You're always looking at the end game in mind, the
Right.
bottom line, what the seller's going to walk away with, and how do you get it to the point where it's reasonable and correct for the market,
Right.
you know,
I think even though in
because
today's market, it's still useful to do a net sheet and look at this and begin the same way because it can get out of control
absolutely
very quickly if you don't.
it can. And this kind of reins it back in
Mhm.
to, the realm of what it should be. So
Right.
one of the very first things I do with a net sheet is I present it at the listing presentation. And for many years, I always kind of did where I thought the seller wanted to be on a net
Oh,
sheet.
oh God.
And that's kind of silly when I was a baby realtor,
Yes.
when I was 12.
Yeah.
But it was that set up such a bad situation when they were overpriced and it came in low, and they'd be
Right.
upset, but you told me I'd get this. So what I started doing, and I learned this probably 20 years ago, I use a title company net sheet. Most of
Mhm.
the title companies have them,
We
where
do.
they can, you can plug and play based on the cost for your counties and, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, most of them
And
have
I
it
do it.
in the app, but if for some reason people need one, I have an editable one and you can find it at jennifermertland.com/vault. And I have one in there that
Yeah,
we use.
that's great. That's wonderful. The plug and play are nice because they, it calculates the title insurance and it calculates, the tax prorations and
Taxes,
all of those
right?
kinds of things. You can put your commission in, you can, do whatever.
Hmm.
So, but it just lays it out for them to see. But I do it in a 3-column approach based on the value for the neighborhood
Hmm.
or the type of property.
Right.
What is the low, what is the median, and what is the high?
I
So the
like
low,
that because we only usually do one, like what we think it will sell for, but I like, yeah, having, two or three, even the low and the high, but I like the low, medium, high. That's a pretty good idea.
well, and I present it to them, the low is your 30-day sale price. This
Hmm.
is the, need to sell right now.
30
The
minute, you
median
mean?
is, pardon
30,
me,
the 30 minute. No,
30-minute, yeah, the 30-second sale
30
price.
second. Yeah, your iBuyer price.
Right, your median
Right.
is your 60-second, you get a full minute to sell it, and
Yeah.
then, your last one is your 180-day sale price or your 180-minute sale price. So it is, and it's also, you bring in absorption rate, how many houses are on the market, what's the average market time, negative 2.3 right now.
Right.
Um, you know, so
But
you
even
can
in a
see,
normal, even in this market, you could present it as because there's a lot of ways to sell a house, and we've talked about this before. So you could do
mhm,
a possible iBuyer price, or if you did go
mhm,
through the iBuyer process, what that price would be and what that would net them, what the high and low of the current market is too.
mhm.
You could do all
Yeah,
of those, and it's
yeah, you can
and
tweak it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if I'm sure there's still data for if you price it too high and you have to take a price reduction, generally you're going to get less money. So you could even still do a net sheet for that because a lot of people I'm finding are wanting to price it too high, even for this market.
Hmm. Well, and if you do the net sheet, this is the value here, Mrs. Seller,
Hmm.
4 homes in your neighborhood, a
Right,
similar size and style and characteristic. And,
right,
down here they have less bells and whistles, and up here they have, more bells and whistles. But you
right,
got bells and whistles way up here, it's kind of above the market.
right.
So you want to list up here, but we're that far off, and what you have really doesn't match that.
Right.
So let's bring it down closer to here,
Right.
you know, and then
Yeah.
that helps you with those price reductions too.
Yeah.
So by presenting it at the listing, you're laying the foundation for a whole lot of things.
Right.
So, and plus they're also aware of what their expenses would be. I typically go on the higher end of the expenses because I want them
Good
pleasantly
idea.
surprised at closing,
Yes.
you know, so that you're a winner as opposed to, you've got to be kidding me, you didn't tell me about that.
Yes, I also think it is a good, yeah, because these expenses, a lot of them don't think that. Like a lot of them think like they forget and they'll think that it's like what they are getting for the house minus what they owe on the house and they get the rest. And that's just not the case.
Right. And that's the other thing I do with the net sheet is I do not deduct what they currently owe.
Okay.
I
Oh,
hand
okay.
it to them with all the expenses, but not what their payoff is.
Okay.
Because I don't know what their payoff is. I tell them they can take that number and deduct it off the bottom because sometimes it looks better to have, you know, 50,000 as opposed to 1,000.
Right, that's true. One of the other things
It's all psychology.
yeah, right. One of the other things we did learn through, you know, in the last 12 years too, is we add a line for inspection items. So that way, based on the age of the house and the condition of the house, and because we've been doing it so long, we can estimate what the inspection requests are going to total. And that helps create like a budget in their mind. So when inspection requests do come back and it's within the range, it's an easy conversation. You're not
Yeah.
then renegotiating like, you know, they thought they were going to get whatever.
Right. Well, and that's a good idea. I mean, I always put extra expenses in my net sheets, you know, for closing costs and that type of thing.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know, and that's that extra kind of padding because of those extraneous expenses that do pop up.
They do.
So, yeah.
Wire fees and mobile notary fees and stuff like that. Right.
But, you know, the beauty of it is you're able to have that conversation with them.
Right.
So that you're educating them up front before you're in the heat of the moment.
Well, and that's the negotiation strategies, right? It's like talking to them up front and really diving in because you'll find out a lot of information so that when you are in the heat of the moment and it's like they're all crazy, you can be like, oh, remember when we talked about
right back here. It was on line 32. Yes.
Yeah, right, exactly. Let's go back to the net sheet and it will like calm them down a little bit.
Absolutely. But again, you know, you can refer to it for those kinds of things. You can refer to it for price reductions because, you know, see, we're still here within the realm of the, you know, what your neighborhood's bringing.
Yeah.
So, and you're still at the high end, even though we're making a reduction.
Right.
So we're good. You
that's
know,
that's a good idea. Right. I am seeing like a lot more listings like expire and get reduced. So I think we're probably on our way back to something more. Hopefully.
I'm going to mark this date and time that you said that. But anyway.
Hopefully.
One could only hope we could come back into balance, somewhat of balance. But, you know, it's funny because I have agents call and say, this house has been on the market for what, 5-6 days and I haven't had an offer yet. What's wrong? It's like, that's a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem.
And then I tell my old war stories and, you know, but yeah. So
that's so funny.
But with the net sheet, you're going to take that net sheet then and you're going to bring it out when you get an offer. And you're going to utilize that net sheet with the offer. So when I get an offer, I always present it, if I can, in any way possible in person.
Right.
And, you know, even if it's multiple offers or whatever, I still try to present it in person.
Especially if they haven't sold a house in a long time. It's a lot.
I know. You can see people's eyes.
Over Zoom, but in person is better. Over Zoom is second because then you can share the screen and show the net sheet.
Yes.
And,
yeah. And that's important because if you've ever played the game of telephone, you know, you try to read it to them and tell them what they've heard is usually different.
Yeah.
Or if you send it to them ahead of time, they may work up a head of steam.
Yeah.
I'm not taking this, you know. Now, if it was presented right, it might be acceptable, but you know, they're focusing on one number, you know, and nothing else.
And not the terms of the contract.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I do a net sheet based on that specific offer. I take out the 3-column net sheet and I make an eye contact like I am with you on the screen right now. I'm not really looking off to the side. I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
So that, I can talk to them
Right.
about where we are. Now, see, this offer is really only about $3,000 off from the high end of your
Neighborhood. Right.
neighborhood. So, but let's look at everything else first.
Let's see what
Let's
all.
walk through all the other terms first. We'll circle back around to the most important item at the end. So, you find out that it is a conventional. They've already been approved. They want to close in 30 days. They're,
Give them
y-
post closing occupancy or something like that. Yeah.
right. So you see that all the other terms are great,
Yeah.
but the price may just be a little off. So instead of hyper focusing on that price, you are just then, happy with all the rest of the terms. So then all you have to change is the price.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's a really fine art, that negotiation tactic.
Yeah. I think
It
so
truly
too.
is.
I mean, because I think it's important to explain to them that it's not only price, that it is also terms. So then, especially when you're comparing offers, like have notes in there about the terms so that they
Hmm.
fully understand. Because the terms, if that's the most important to them, then the ones that don't meet the term, then are just, even if they net more, it doesn't matter. Maybe,
Right.
maybe not.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah,
Well, if you've got great terms, I mean, you've got terms even better than you were hoping
it's
for,
worth
and the
something.
price isn't quite where it should be, you may hesitate to counter it,
Yeah, it
and just
depends.
accept it because, it's overall, it's really kind of what we wanted. So, okay, we'll go ahead and take that.
Yeah,
It
it just
saves the
depends.
counter back.
Right,
And that's
exactly.
where, as a buyer's agent, writing the best offer you can is also important.
Well, yeah, and part of that is, and we talk about this all the time, like on the podcast, we've talked about it a bunch, is calling the agent ahead of time and finding out
Mhm.
what are they looking for so that you can be in the best position for sure.
Yeah, to sweeten the pot as much as you can to make it the most appealing.
Hmm.
And I know people are putting like terms on a spreadsheet
Yeah.
and just taking the spreadsheet over to present.
Hmm.
Make sure you take those offers too.
Yeah.
The seller needs to see those offers.
Hmm.
Then you can discuss it from a spreadsheet
Right.
with your net sheet, but make sure they see those offers
Yeah.
as well and sign every agency disclosure, because really the agency is supposed to be presented and signed prior to the presentation of the offer.
Okay, we'll have to talk about dual agency then, I think, at one time, huh?
Yes, we will.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you being on as normal. Thank you, Louise. It was great.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy these.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye bye.
Maybe. We'll try to get off here. Hold on.